record button. And let me just do a screen share so I can pull up my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, can you guys confirm for me that you are seeing a PowerPoint slide that says Twitter getting started? All right, so far so good. Okay, well, we're going to get started. This is, I guess, the second in a series of getting started videos that are getting started remote trainings that we started with last month. We actually went through Facebook Insights and how you can kind of gauge how your Facebook page is doing. This is part 2, and we're going to talk about Twitter. So I will jump right in, and we'll go for probably about an hour, hour and a half, and then we'll have some time for questions there at the end. So first of all, I want to start off with what we will not be covering. Now, I had some questions before starting this session. If you had to have a Twitter account before this training, and you do not, but we are not going to cover how to set up a Twitter account. We are not going to cover how to add profile and cover photos or how to edit those or things like that. We're not going to cover how to set up Twitter on mobile devices. There's a ton of different mobile apps that you can use to manage your Twitter accounts. So I'm going to leave that up to you guys. Twitter has a very comprehensive website or page, I guess, that covers every one of these things. And I've got the link here. You can Google it and find it if you'd rather do that. Again, I'm going to send this PowerPoint out so you'll have this and you can just click that link from in there. But setting up a Twitter account is literally as easy as entering an email and selecting a password, just like we do with all kinds of other accounts that we have set up as we go about our day-to-day on the internet. So you should have no trouble doing that, and you know, it's the hardest part you'll probably have to deal with is selecting what your username or what your handle is going to be. And if you do get stuck, then you can let me know and I'll do my best to help you out. But I think it's pretty straightforward. I think you guys will be able to handle that if you don't already have a Twitter account. If you don't, this is still going to be relative. If you don't have a Twitter account, I think this is almost a first step. If you do already have one, it's still going to be just as relevant. Hopefully you'll get some information, and I'll say some things that kind of hit home as you've tried to develop your Twitter skills and figure out what Twitter is all about. So what we will be covering, we're going to cover what is Twitter, you know, what's the premise of it, what makes up Twitter, you know, hopefully talk about a little bit about why it's so popular and actually what it is at the core. How to use Twitter. You know, the biggest complaint that we get or that we hear when folks first start Twitter is, what do all those symbols mean? There's a lot of stuff going on Twitter that if you're just picking up or you just look at your news feed on Twitter, it's hard to really figure out exactly what the symbols mean, what some of the acronyms that people are using mean. You know, there's only 140 characters that you have to work with, and people are very creative in how they use those 140 characters to get their message across. The next question that we always get, and this is something that started on Twitter and has kind of branched out into Facebook and all other places, is what is a hashtag? You know, what does that mean? We see a word or a group of words or some text, you know, that's preceded by a pound symbol. You know, that is referred to as a hashtag, but what is that? And we're going to cover that. Mentioning other users. You know, Twitter is about engagement, just like Facebook is, just like any other social media platform, no matter what it is, where it was created, who's using it. Social media is about engagement. It's not bulletin boards. It's not message boards. It's not places you go and just throw information. It's engaging with people that have similar interests. That's all that social media and Twitter is at the core. So mentioning other users is going to be important as you start your engagement process using Twitter, and then connecting with other users. You know, you're going to create a network of folks on Twitter that have similar interests or are interested in what you're saying. You know, so the goal here is to connect with those people, creating some sort of a community. Now, you'll hear, if you ever do any reading about Twitter or try to research it further, you hear a lot of people refer to it as a Twitter tribe. And basically that just gives you an idea of a community of people that have similar interests there, that are communicating on social media, exchanging ideas, getting information from one another. You're going to find that you'll use Twitter to not only give information to clients, but engage with them, start conversations. But you can also use Twitter as a way to educate yourself. There's a ton of other extension organizations using Twitter very effectively. I follow quite a few of them and get ideas from them just about every day. And I think if you start to, and I'm following from the UT Extension brand, I'm following more of the main Iowa extension and things like that, and getting some really good ideas. Some of those folks are really talented about how they use Twitter to engage with their clients. And I think the exciting thing from you guys getting involved in Twitter at the county standpoint, or at the county level, is that granular level of engagement with the clients there in the county. So we're also going to cover promoting your Twitter account, how to engage on Twitter. You're going to hear me say the word engagement a whole lot as we talk about Twitter. That's what it's for. And if we try to use Twitter, or even Facebook for that matter, for anything other than engagement, we're going to see that our numbers, our results, the impact that we potentially have on Twitter is going to fall, or on social media in general, is going to fall off. I'm going to mention a couple of tools that can help you with your Twitter efforts. There's, one of the biggest complaints, besides what do those symbols mean and what is a hashtag, is, well, it happens too fast. Twitter is real time. So, unlike Facebook, if there's a post that's made at 9 a.m. this morning, if we log on at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and Facebook's algorithm has decided that that post that was made at 9 a.m. is important to us, then it may throw that in our news feed. Twitter is not that way. If you post at 9 a.m., it's going to stay at 9 a.m. So that post is going to get pushed down as the day goes on and more people are tweeting and things like that. So, there's definitely, it can move pretty fast. And there's two tools that I'm going to highly recommend that you at least take a look at. They're going to help slow down that news feed and actually allow you to kind of take a step back and actually see what's going on Twitter. And then we're going to talk about some struggles that you're undoubtedly going to face. If you've been using Twitter for a while, then you're fully aware of these struggles. If you have never used Twitter, then I think understanding that these struggles happen for everybody that first starts out on Twitter is going to be encouraging to you, so that you're not alone, or that you're not just having trouble understanding the platform. Twitter is a hard platform to learn, but it's one of the fastest growing social media platforms out there. The demographics are shifting, especially when it gets into our 4-H age youth that are using Twitter. So I can definitely understand the desire and the need to be involved on Twitter. So any questions about what we're going to cover or what we're not going to cover in this session? Okay, fair enough. I will go forward. So what is Twitter? At its core, and this is from the Twitter website, Twitter is a social media platform. It's an information network, and that's important to understand that it's a network. It's You're going to follow people, and people are going to follow you because they're interested in what you're saying and you're interested in what they're saying. So it's truly a network, and it's made up of 140 character messages called tweets. Okay, that's pretty easy to understand that. It's an easy way to discover the latest news related to subjects that you care about. Not only is it an easy way to discover news about subjects you care about, but it's also, from our standpoint, from the standpoint of extension, it's a way that we can show people, tell people what we're doing as extension, what we're doing to help Tennesseans across the state in extension. So it's a great opportunity for us to be the information givers on Twitter, but we can also be information takers on Twitter. So we can consume and we can produce at the same time. Twitter is useful for connecting with people that have similar interests. Again, I've talked about that. That's about engagement. That's that network. If somebody follows UT Extension, or if they follow UT Extension, Sumner County or Lincoln County or whatever it may be, they're interested for some reason in what that Twitter account is possibly going to tell them at some point. From our standpoint, it's a way to engage with clients that are interested in what we have to say. And engagement is hard to do. It's kind of uncomfortable at first, but that's when you get to engaging and directly having conversations with people on Twitter, you're going to start to see the reward from this social media platform. It also gives you an opportunity to promote various activities and events to stakeholders, as well as to offer information. Now, the problem here, or the fine line here, and this is where I see a lot of our mistakes that we make from extension, is that we use social media as a way to just push information. We're putting out there that there's a meeting tonight at 7 o'clock on Master Beef Producer, or that there's a 4-H project group meeting after school tomorrow, or things like that. You know, we're just yelling. We're standing on the corner and yelling at people, hey, this is what we have going on. We have to, it's okay to do that to a certain extent, but we also have to reach out and engage with people. Just like you and I would not want to go and have a conversation with somebody that's constantly telling us what they have going on. We want to engage and talk with people that are interested in what we have to say, and they're going to ask us questions. That's just basic human nature. So if we think about having conversations with folks on Twitter, then it's going to help make a little bit more sense, especially as we get started. And again, here's that word: Twitter is about engagement. We have to keep that in mind, that when we put content up there, you have to ask yourself, is this engaging? Am I making an effort? And not every tweet has to be. You're going to see a ton of tweets, and you're going to have the opportunity to tweet a ton of different things that are not really engaging, but more providing information. And I'm going to show you some ways that you can kind of go about engaging with people and finding people to engage with on Twitter. Any questions about what Twitter is? And does this line up so far with kind of what you thought Twitter was about, or what you thought social media was about in general? Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on to our next slide then. What Twitter is not. Twitter is not Facebook. And I'm going to talk about kind of the correlation here a little bit when we get into the struggles that you're going to face. But Twitter is not Facebook. As I said before, if there's a Facebook post that you make from your county Facebook page at 9 o'clock in the morning, there's a chance that somebody that follows your Facebook or has liked your Facebook page is going to see that post at 4 o'clock this evening, depending upon what their interest and what their behavior is on Facebook. There's an algorithm that is going to push that information to them even after the time that that post was made. So it's not necessarily real time. Twitter doesn't do that. So if you, let's say that you have somebody that follows your Twitter account that also follows 1,000 other Twitter accounts. It's reasonable to think that if you put a tweet out there at 9 o'clock this morning, that by 9:10, that message or that tweet is so far down the timeline that that person may never see that. So tweeting multiple times, even tweeting the same content out multiple times a day, is acceptable. And you'll see, as you follow different brands and different people, they often do that because they understand that a lot of their followers have a lot of other followers, and if they have something really important they want to say, they may tweet it out 2 or 3 times a day. Now they may change it just a little bit, change the phrase or the sentence, or add a couple words, whatever it may be. So you may see that happen over time. That's something that we definitely wouldn't do on Facebook. We would not go to Facebook and post about a meeting at 9 a.m. and then post about that same thing at 10 o'clock and then again at 11 o'clock. We just wouldn't do it because that's not how Facebook works. Okay, so Twitter's also not your website, and I think that that's pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, when you read it, it is, but when you look at Twitter, it doesn't really look like a website. Tweets don't look like any kind of web content that we would see. Facebook, I could see where people try to make Facebook function as a website, but the goal here is to actually use social media, specifically we're talking about Twitter today, to use Twitter to drive traffic back to your website. So if you do have a project group meeting that's happening Friday after school or whenever it may be, and there's more information about that meeting on your website, then the goal would be to tweet out a link to that website or to that web page and drive traffic back there. Now, you can use that 140 characters that Twitter is going to allow you to tease or uh, throw a clever phrase out there that would spark interest and make people want to go look at your website to get more information. But it's not going to take the place, and it's not meant to take the place of your website. It's meant to work in correlation with your website. Twitter's not a bulletin board. Again, being that Twitter is about engagement, we want to be careful not to be a brand or an individual that's just constantly throwing information out there. To really get, and you could do that if you wanted to on Twitter. You could, but your engagement, the impact that you're going to get from Twitter is not going to be what it could be if you were to be engaging and engage with your clients or potential clients on Twitter. Twitter is not easy. I've talked to a lot of people as they're starting to get, or looking to get started in Twitter for either promoting their business or their county or their programs or whatever it may be. And they think, wow, 140 characters, how hard can that be? Well, it can get pretty hard. First of all, if you have a lot of stuff you want to say, trying to squeeze that into 140 characters can be difficult. Second of all, at first, until you kind of get into the flow of what Twitter is, it's hard to figure out what to say, when to say it, things like that. My best advice to you on that is just do it. Just throw it out there and see what happens. You're never going to know if something's going to work or if a tweet's going to spark somebody to retweet you or engage with you directly until you throw it out there. Twitter doesn't lend itself to instant gratification. I think if you can all remember back, if you have a county Facebook page or if you've ever set up a Facebook page before, you set it up and within an hour you've got 15 or 20 likes or 50 likes or 100 likes or whatever. You got all your friends and all your family and all of their friends, and everybody went and liked your page because you created it. And a week later you look up and you have 100 or whatever likes. That was easy. That was instant gratification. Twitter's not that way. It's going to take a while for you to get up into those higher numbers of followers. The more active you are, the more engaging you are, the faster that's going to happen. So it's going to happen slowly. I would just encourage you, as I said in the Facebook Insight meeting or training or course, whatever, I would encourage you not to necessarily look at the numbers, but look at when that happens and be appreciative of that. If you look at the numbers and you see after 3 weeks you've only got 35 people following on Twitter, I wouldn't worry about it. Just keep working some sort of a system, and we'll talk a little bit about strategy here as we go forward in this. But just understand that it's not going to happen. You're not going to see that snowball effect happen as quickly as it did on Facebook. Twitter's not hands-off. I've seen I take our Christmas break, for example. Before then, I was tweeting a lot under the UT Extension brand. I was active. I was engaging with folks, and then Christmas break comes along, and I took that week off, and then it's still to this day hard for me to get back in to the swing of things of using Twitter, and my engagement level on Twitter has suffered from it because I'm not as active as I once was. So Twitter, to be on Twitter, to be successful and to get the impacts that you could get from Twitter, it's going to take you being active on it. And I'm not going to say every day. There's tools that I'm going to show you that will allow you to remain active even when you can't be on Twitter, even when you can't be in front of a computer or your phone or whatever device you decide you want to use to tweet. But I'm going to show you some tools where you can keep that momentum going in times where you can't be there to physically do it yourself. And Twitter is not for everyone. There's a, I don't want to say misconception, but I guess, folks think, well, I need to set up a Facebook page, I need to set up a Twitter account. Well, why? I applaud you if that's what you want to do, and I think that you should give it a try. But if you get into it in Twitter or Facebook and you find that after 6 months and after you've sat down, you've developed a strategy and you've gone with that strategy, and after 6 months you're just not seeing the results or you're not seeing what you may need, it's okay if it's not for you. You don't have to be active on it. I would dare say that everybody that's setting in on this training and set in on the training yesterday and that's going to come and set in on the training on next Tuesday, is interested in Twitter because someone has told them that they need to be on it, or they have realized that a lot of their clients, be it youth or adult, are on Twitter. There's a reason that you guys are here. So understand that as you get into this, if you realize it's not for you, that's okay. It's not for everybody. Okay. So any questions on what Twitter is not, or any points, any comments anybody would like to make about this? Okay. All right. I will just trust if you guys have something that you will throw it out there for me to see. But I'll probably continue to ask you. Okay. So, how to use Twitter? What is a tweet? It's an expression of a moment or an idea. It can contain text, photos, and videos, and millions of tweets are shared in real time every day. Okay. That's a lot of information. We know that information. We've talked about that real time aspect. Um, the the misconception of Twitter, I think, is that, well, nobody wants to see what I'm eating for dinner, or nobody wants to see what, you know, I did this morning as I was leaving the house, or whatever. Some of the stuff that you could go to Twitter and not have to look too long and find a picture of somebody's lunch, or a picture of somebody pouring a cup of water. Anything crazy like that, you're going to see that. But here's the thing: that's not what Twitter is about. Now, for that individual, that may be what Twitter is about. Let's say, for example, I'll use my mom. I love my mom to death, and if she was on here, I think she would probably slap me after saying this. But my mom is not active on Twitter. But if she was, she would be, or she would care about what I had for lunch. She would care about me pouring a glass of water. She's interested in what I'm doing because I'm her baby boy, right? So when you see people tweeting pictures like that, they're not necessarily tweeting that because they think the whole world is concerned with what they're eating for lunch or what they're doing. But there's a network of people that they've engaged with on Twitter that maybe are interested in seeing pictures of what that individual is having for lunch, or how that individual poured a glass of water, or whatever it may be. So it's when you see, or when you're acting on Twitter, it's not about what the whole world is concerned about seeing. It's about what your Twitter tribe, or the people that have followed you, are concerned about seeing, or engaging with, or speaking about, or things like that. So I think that's important to understand, that it's not all, for each person, for each company, for each brand, for each county, for each whatever. The meaning on Twitter, the idea, the way you go about things, who you're engaging with, that's all going to be different, and it's going to be unique, and it's going to be up to you to decide how to do that and if it's working for you. So what do all those symbols mean? When you pull up a tweet, you're going to see periods, you're going to see pound signs, you're going to see at symbols, you're going to see a various number of acronyms on there. Again, we're dealing with 140 characters here, so we have to be creative how we tweet, and how we get our point across. So starting with that pound sign, the pound sign is going to be followed by some text. Now, that text may be a real word that we can look at and see that it's a word, like maybe hashtag hockey. Okay, I can see what that is. But if you remember back to our extension conference, we used the hashtag of TEC14. That stood for Tennessee Extension Conference 2014. Now, obviously, that was a lot if we were to type that out in a tweet, that would take up a large amount of those 140 characters that we have to tweet about, or have to tweet with. So we used a shortened, kind of acronym that made sense to us. It didn't make sense to anybody else. But basically, that's a keyword. So in Twitter, when you see a hashtag, it's going to be blue, or some color, depending on what your theme of the app that you're using to work with Twitter is, whatever color that's going to be. In this example, I've used this AgriPulse tweet, and they've retweeted a tweet from the USDA, and you can see I've circled that in red. So we see that @ symbol there. That @ symbol is going to come before a Twitter username or a Twitter handle. Okay, it's just like the old CB radios. Guys and gals that were active on those had handles. This is going to be called a Twitter handle, or a username, whatever you want to call it. So That's all that is. So we see that at USDA and that SEC secretary, and we go on with some information here on this tweet. And then down here we see this hashtag CSPAN3. Okay, that's a hashtag, that's a keyword. Now, there may be 5,000 people that are using that same hashtag, or there may be one. It may be AgriPulse or USDA is the only person that used that hashtag. A hashtag doesn't have to already exist for you to use it. You can create it. We didn't do anything to register or create the TEC14 other than simply start using it. So if you have a program in your county and you have a group of your clients that are on Twitter and you want to use a hashtag, then do it. If as long as people are using it and it makes sense to them, then it will work. And then when you go into Twitter or go into one of the tools that you're using to manage Twitter, you can click that hashtag and it's going to show you every tweet that's come across that has that hashtag in it. So it's a way to quickly reference a topic. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, I do want to call your attention to, you can kind of barely see it here on this PowerPoint, but there's a little period right there before the at USDA. Okay, and what that does, let's say that period was gone, and I've got an example here that I will get into when I get into showing you the tools of what that looks like without that period there. But if that period wasn't there, then that basically would have been not really a private message, but a non-public message between AgriPulse and the USDA. So if you lead a tweet off with a username, the only people that will see that are going to be the people that follow you and the people that follow, or sorry, the people that follow that brand. So if this period was off, the only folks that would see that, the only people on Twitter that would see that would be people that follow the at USDA and at AgriPulse. No one else would be able to see that tweet. Okay, if they only followed at USDA and at AgriPulse tweeted that without that period there, they would see that. They wouldn't see the tweet there, the original tweet from AgriPulse. So that period there basically says, okay, this is a tweet that I want to be public. Again, it's not really sending a private message. With a little bit of digging and stuff, people could see that. So I don't want you to think that if you just start off with a username here, it's going to be a private message. I'll show you how to send truly private messages shortly. But that period just makes it go to everyone on Twitter that has the ability to see these any tweet. Okay, I know that's a little confusing. Do you have any questions that I can answer, or any way that I can make that a little more clear to you? Basically, what I'm trying to say is, if you're going to mention somebody on Twitter and you're going to put that username or that handle first, lead it off with another character. It doesn't necessarily have to be a period. It could be an exclamation point. You'll see sometimes people will use like a greater than or a less than symbol. Anything. It can be anything other than that username being the first thing that you put in your tweet. Is that clear for you guys? Okay. And hopefully I can show you. I'll have several examples that it just so worked out to where some people have tweeted to the UT Extension brand and didn't put that period there, and I can show you kind of what's going on with that. So as I said, also there's various acronyms that people use. The one that trips me up the most, and I see it, I know what it is, but I always have to think about it, and it's the in case you missed it. So ICYM, right? In case. Yeah, ICYMI. Okay, yeah, that's it. So I see that all the time, and I always have to step back and say, well, okay, what does that mean again? So it's in case you missed it. If you wrote out in case you missed it, those characters would take up a good portion of your tweet. So you can use an acronym. Now, I've provided a couple of links here that will take you to a list of acronyms that use. The first one here is acronyms basically that they're saying are used more commonly in just simple text messages, not necessarily on Twitter, but just text messages. Now, the second one is specific to Twitter. It's acronyms actually that are found on Twitter. Now, I will caution you, they're not obvious. It's not like these words are going to pop up and hit you when you go to the web page. And the web page isn't bad, but there are some acronyms that have some colorful expletives in it. So I just want you to be aware of that. But I think that it's also appropriate for you guys to understand that, especially if you're dealing with youth and you see some of your 4-Hers tweeting some of these acronyms that have some of this colorful language in it. That's an opportunity for you guys to engage them and say, hey, you do realize that social media, Twitter prides themselves on no tweet is ever gone. No tweet ever goes away. They have the very first tweet to the very last tweet that was tweeted just right now. They have every one of them. They never go away. So it's important that our youth understand that, and that it's a public forum. Um, Even if they're sending direct messages, which are technically private, it's still a public forum. So I think understanding what those acronyms are will allow you to kind of watch and see what your 4-Hers are tweeting out, and just make sure that they understand that it's not appropriate to tweet out inappropriate things that can come back to bite them at some point in the future, possibly. I know if you talk to anybody, or if you've applied for a job recently, hopefully none of you guys have, but if you have, we're starting to see where companies are asking for the your Twitter handle, and even asking for a link to your Facebook page. So and if they don't ask for it, you better believe that they're going and looking at it. If anybody on this call has done any hiring in the last little while, I'm sure that you've gone and you've looked at Facebook to see what those potential candidates are up to. It's a great way to get an idea of what type of person, at least what type of public persona that person chooses to convey. So folks are looking at it, and I think it's important for our youth to understand that too, and some of our adult clients too, for that matter. So there's also several terms. I've probably mentioned some terms that you're maybe not overly familiar with already in this training. This page here under terms is going to give you some of the language that's used by Twitter and help you understand exactly what people are talking about when they say certain things. So I know we already covered what is a hashtag, but I threw this in here. Hashtags assign a topic to a tweet. So for example, tweets that contain the hashtag World Cup are about just that. So in Twitter, in a tool that you're using to manage Twitter, if you click on that hashtag World Cup, you're going to see just a ton of tweets that are about, or that have used that hashtag World Cup. As you guys know me, I'm a hockey fan. You'll see, like, when the Predators play, for example, tonight, they play, I don't even know who they play tonight, but anyway, you'll see where they'll create, some of the media will start to use a hashtag for, Preds verse whatever, and that's the hashtag, and it's just a quick way to follow the Twitter feed from the game. People are tweeting using that hashtag. It's entertainment when it comes to that. So, but you could also see, let's say that God forbid we ever had a foot and mouth breakout, in cattle. We may see a hashtag that has something to do with that, and that would provide farmers and people in the industry or related to the industry a quick way they could go to Twitter and get information. I recently had the opportunity to talk to a good friend he's an engineer. I don't know exactly what he does, but he was in Kuwait working for 6 months. And before he left, we had gone on a trip together, and I was telling him about one of the tools I use on Twitter. And while he was in Kuwait, he used Twitter to watch some of the conversations that were going on around him, so they kind of had an idea of where some of the hot areas were that they didn't really need to go in. And it actually proved to be very lucrative to understand what some of those little pockets of groups over there in Kuwait were talking about, and gave them some really cool insight just by following some of the hashtags that they were using. Now, he had to get somebody to translate Arabic for him, but it worked out. It's kind of a best case scenario there, but it doesn't have to be that serious. It can be entertaining, it can be educational, all the above. So any questions on the hashtags, the usernames, what the @ symbol means, or any of that? Okay. I will continue moving on then. That's the wrong way. Here we go. So, what do I tweet? The best tweets are going to share meaningful moments, big and small. As I talked about before, what I had for lunch is not a meaningful moment to anyone else other than me and possibly my mom. I don't know of anybody else that is going to care what I had for lunch, and rightfully so. I don't usually care what I have for lunch as long as I get to eat something. But it's meaningful to somebody. So, that share meaningful moments doesn't have to be totally impactful to everybody. It just has to mean something to you and mean something to the people that are following you. Not necessarily does it have to mean something to people that follow you, but if you want to engage with those people, then it needs to have some sort of a relevance in their life. Big and small, quote your grandma, share a photo of your pet sloth, make a Vine video of your youngest doing a tricycle wheelie. If you think it's interesting, chances are your followers will too. That's the line I want you to remember. If you think it's interesting from an agent standpoint, from an administrator standpoint, from a UT extension standpoint, from a extension standpoint, from a Tennessean standpoint, whatever, chances are somebody that follows you is going to find it interesting as well. So that's where the trouble or the real work comes in, is tweeting about things that interest you. And as people on Twitter see you tweet, and as you engage and you reach out and you try to start conversations with folks, they're going to see that you're engaging, and they're going to see what kind of subject or what kind of issues or subjects or things you're talking about. So that's going to encourage them to follow you because you have similar interests, you have similar goals, whatever it may be. So if you think it's interesting, chances are those who follow you will too. Links and videos and images, just like on Facebook, all that stuff's important. You can get away with a lot more just simple text posts on Twitter, but we're still a visual society. We still like to see videos. We still like to see pictures. We still like links to an article or your county website or things like that. How often should I tweet? Depends on what your goals are. Typically, you're going to see better results from consistent usage. That's the main thing I want you to understand. Now, if you say, all right, I'm going to tweet one time a day for the next 6 weeks and see what happens. Well, you're probably going to see some success. You're going to see some people that are going to follow you. You're going to see some, maybe see a retweet or at least a favorited tweet here and there. But chances are, if you're tweeting once a day, you're not going to see anything really happen too fast, because people on Twitter, those that you may want to follow you, have not gotten an idea of what you're going to talk about or what your interests are or what your goals are on Twitter. So you may not get as many as you would if you say tweeted 3 or 4 times a day. Now, I know that takes time and it takes work. Again, hopefully I can show you some of these tools that will allow you to schedule posts so that you can make those tweets happen on a daily basis without having to physically sit down and do it yourself. Things to consider: Twitter is a constant real-time feed. I talked about earlier, if you tweet something out this morning that you really think is important and you want as many people as you can to see that tweet, it's completely appropriate to tweet out something similar, if not the exact same thing, later in the day. That way everybody saw it. Now, if you were on the Facebook Insight training, then we went through one of the tools that Facebook offers that shows you when your fans are online. So if you have 100 fans that like your Facebook page, this graph in Insights actually shows you when those people are online on average. That would be a good place to start. And if you weren't on the Facebook Insight training, you can go to your Facebook page, click on Insights, and look through the options there and find the graph that I'm talking about. But that would be a really nice place to start. Basically, I'm going to tell you it probably looks the same for all of us, that we're going to see a spike starting about 6 o'clock in the morning. It's going to spike a little bit right around 9. Then as people get into the workday, it's going to kind of level off a little bit. And then as we get in the afternoon, you're going to see another spike up until about 10 o'clock in the evening. And then it's going to start to fall off until about 6 a.m. in the morning. So tweet when you know people are on are looking at their phones or on Twitter. Lunchtime, the beginning of the day, towards the end of the day, things like that. If I was going to start from scratch and start developing a strategy, those would be my go-to times. In the morning, people are eating breakfast, or maybe they're getting the office early. So maybe a 6, 7 o'clock kind of time frame. Throw a tweet out there, and then when people get in the office, they're getting their workday started. They're checking their phone one more time. Maybe they're logging into Twitter on their desktop. So that may be a good time to do it. When lunchtime starts to roll around, people, again, they're picking up their phones or their iPads or whatever, checking Twitter or Facebook before they go out, grab a bite to eat. While they're at lunch, they're tweeting pictures of the food that they're eating, right? So that's maybe a good time to send some information. As they get back to the office, the afternoon wears on, it's getting closer to quitting time. They're going to pick the phones up, go back to Twitter, check things. So all those are good times to post or to tweet out information to try to engage with folks. Another interesting concept or idea is if you're doing this from a 4-H standpoint, and the 4-H parents that you're trying to maybe engage with, to give them information or maybe to get information, whatever, just engaging with 4-H parents in general. For those younger youth, maybe I don't really know. I don't know if there's an average time that people put their children to bed, but I'd say 8, 9 o'clock, after the parents have put the kids to bed, they're sitting on the couch, or maybe they're in bed reading their iPads or looking at their phones for one last time before they go to sleep, or just winding down from the day or whatever. That would be an opportunity to try, at least as you're working through developing your strategy, say, all right, for the next 6 weeks, I'm going to try to put some tweets out there between the 8 and 10 o'clock time frame, just to see what kind of response I get. That could provide or prove to be lucrative as far as you building engagement with people on Twitter. Over tweeting can be as harmful as under tweeting. If you tweet 27 times in 1 hour, that can get quite annoying, especially if somebody has followed you on Twitter and they're getting your tweet updates as alerts on their phone. So if you tweeted 26 times in 1 hour and I got 26 alerts on my phone, at least, even if I'm thinking, well, I'm going to unfollow this person, that may not be that, but I may say, okay, well, if they're going to tweet this much, I can't have my phone going off that often. So I'm going to go into Twitter and turn it off where I don't get notifications when they tweet. So, you want to be careful there about how much you tweet, under tweeting, over tweeting, things like that. There's a delicate balance. And, I would say start off on kind of the light side and build your way up. Just don't think about it too much. Just be aware of that potential there for over tweeting, and then of course under tweeting. The biggest thing that I think that we struggle with on Facebook and on Twitter, and just a lot of our social media efforts, is we don't really have a strategy. When I was doing the Facebook Insight training, I asked some people, what's your county's Facebook strategy? And well, we just post, and that's okay if that's what you want to go with. But if you want to get the maximum results out of your effort, which I think we all do, we don't want to put forth effort into something that's not going to return results to us. We want to have a strategy. Not only do we want to have a strategy so that we have kind of a goal in mind, or we have a direction that we're going, but we want to have a strategy so that at the end of 6 weeks, or at the end of 3 months, or however long you determine that strategy to be, you can sit down and look at it and say, okay, over the last 6 weeks, we tweeted 4 times a day, 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 1 in the evening. These are the results we saw. We got retweeted this many times. We got this many new followers. We got this many mentions, things like that. So you can start to sit down and see what your efforts are doing. If for 6 weeks you put one tweet out at 8 o'clock at night, and 90% of those got retweeted or offered somebody an opportunity to engage with you and tweet back to you or favorite it or something like that, that's a good indicator that's a good time to tweet. So then you start scheduling more of your tweets to go out at that time frame. Any of this make sense to you guys? Any questions or comments? I'd love to hear kind of what you're thinking right now, if you have anything you'd like to share. You guys still with me? Yes, Tina, for cancellations. That is that's a really good idea. If meetings change and things like that, yes, for sure. Okay, well, I will keep going then. So engaging on Twitter, I've mentioned that word quite often, probably the point where you're getting tired of hearing it. You want to become a master of mentions. And what I mean by that is when you mention somebody, that means that you're using their Twitter handle in a tweet. And when you do that, they're going to get a message that you did that, that you were mentioned on Twitter by whoever. So to do that, you would just put their Twitter handle in a tweet using the @ symbol before. And then again, if you'll remember, we talked about this. If their username is the first item in that tweet, you want to put a period or some sort of a symbol in front of it so that it goes to the world as a whole and everybody can see this tweet. And it's a good practice to, and I'll get back to this just a second. It's good practice to thank someone for a retweet, follow, or favorite by mentioning them in a tweet. So as you're getting started, and here's the premise behind this. No matter who they are on Twitter, they were starting at one point. They were setting exactly where some of you are today, not really understanding what Twitter is, maybe even thinking Twitter is not for me. I don't like it. I'm going to give it a try, but I'm not going to like it. Um, whatever. And over time they got a mention. Okay, well, that first mention, then it's kind of, I don't want to say exciting, but it lets you know that people are out there listening to what you're saying. So when you mention somebody, when somebody follows you or they like something that you did or favorite something that you did or they retweet, it's common practice, and some may even say common courtesy on Twitter, to reach out and thank that person. Now, if you get up to where you're just getting so many of those that it's impossible to keep up with, you know, it's okay. But at first, as you're building momentum, I think that every time you get a retweet or every time you get somebody to mention you or do something on Twitter, it would be a good practice to reach out to that person and thank them. You're going to find that doing that is going to take you a long way. And then what happens when you create that connection? So let's say that I liked something, um, or I followed you on Twitter, and you put out that tweet that says "Thanks for the follow at J Brad Greenfield." That's my personal Twitter handle there. You guys are welcome to follow me if you want to. I very rarely tweet under my personal Twitter account. I'm usually just tweeting under the UT extension Twitter account. But either way, what that does is that connects me with you. So as your county office reached out to me and thanked me for that, now I'm engaged. Now I feel like I'm a part of your Twitter tribe. So when you post something, now I'm going to be more likely to retweet it again because I got gratification. I know how hard it is to develop a following and create this engagement on Twitter. So you reached out to me. Now I'm going to do you a solid favor. And every time you tweet something, I'm going to retweet it, or I'm going to favorite it, or I'm going to engage with you. So it's jumping into that conversation and getting it going. It doesn't have to be a thank you for a retweet or a follow or a favorite to mention somebody. You can mention people for any reason whatsoever. Maybe it's something that maybe you have a client that's working on a project and you find on Twitter where somebody has tweeted a link to an article. You could retweet that and mention that person in the retweet, and then they would see it. So various different ways. There's not one wrong or right way to do this, but mentioning people and things like that are going to help you build the momentum that I talked about earlier. Try to follow those that follow you on Twitter. Now, obviously, you want to be a little, I guess, you want to analyze what people are tweeting about. If you follow somebody on Twitter and they're putting a bunch of stuff out there that we really don't need on our Twitter accounts or showing up on our news feeds or things like that, then you may want to unfollow them. But if they followed you, then they're interested in what you have to say. There's potential that you could be or gain insight from what they have to say as well. So that's common practice as well. You're actually going to see one of the hashtags that you see on Friday is it's hashtag FF, and that stands for Follow Friday. So you'll see, I think that's from many years ago when Twitter first started building some momentum in the social media world. People were using Fridays to go out and follow new people. Directly engage with people on Twitter. Again, reach out to folks. Sorry. I'm going to show you how you can search various topics on Twitter and reach out to people directly, even if they don't follow you. Even if you have no idea who they are, that's even better. Then you can reach out and engage with that person, possibly gain a new client, positively affect somebody's life, whatever. Keep tweets as short as possible. This is going to allow for easy retweets. So follow me if you will. If you put a tweet out there that is 140 characters, okay, we've maximized the amount of characters that Twitter is going to allow us to put in a tweet. So if somebody wants to retweet that and maybe they want to add something to it, if our tweet is already maxed out at 140 characters, when somebody retweets it, then it's going to add an R and a T to it, and it's going to stand for retweet. And I'll get into that here in just a little bit. So there's 2 characters, and then it's going to add a space. So now that's 3 characters. Well, we're already maxed out at 140. There's no room for any of that. So we haven't provided a tweet that lends itself easily for someone to be able to retweet. So if we could keep our tweets somewhere around the 120, maybe 110 character space, that's going to allow somebody to quickly retweet us, add a comment of their own, be it a short one, and then get it back out to the people that follow them. So that's ideal. Now, some tweets, you're going to maximize the space. It's going to happen. But just try to be aware that as you're tweeting, try to leave that space in there for people to easily retweet you. And tweet during daytime hours. We talked about that a little bit ago. People are active on Twitter during the daytime. They're also active at night. And I talked about using the Facebook Insights as a starting point to determine when would be a good time to hit the majority of your people that are following you. I'm not saying that's a golden rule or anything. It just may be a starting point. If you're starting out on Twitter and you're looking for a way to get started, that may be worth taking a look at. And more about engaging on Twitter, tweeting on the weekends. Now, I know that it's easy. You know, we work enough at nights and we work on weekends that trying to remember to tweet can be a bit of a challenge, but there's a lot of opportunities for potential engagement on the weekends. And the reason is, especially this time of year, there's not a bunch going on outside. It's cold, it's gray, it's rainy. It seems about the description of December here in Nashville, at least this year. But people are inside. They're not able to do anything, or they're taking little Jane to basketball practice or something like that. So they're sitting there looking at their phones. They're checking Twitter. It's a great opportunity to engage with them. Now, you don't have to be the one sitting there tweeting on Saturday morning or on Sunday afternoon. You can schedule posts that will take care of that for you. You just put the content in there, tell it when you want it to go, and you walk away, and it takes care of it itself. So again, I'll show you some of those tools in just a little bit. Try to tweet images whenever possible. If you're using your phone, which Twitter is made for the mobile platforms. It's made for tablets. It's made for phones. It still works on desktop. Obviously it does, but it's designed to be the conversations that we have on the phones, because we're not always carrying our desktops and our tablets around. We've always got our phones. In fact, Twitter was so much made for mobile that there's a whole web development platform that has been built around the premise of Twitter's styling, and it's called Bootstrap. Now, I don't expect any of you to know or really even care what that is, but just to show you how impactful Twitter has been in that mobile kind of platform development realm. So don't be afraid to ask for a retweet. You know, I've done that before. I do a fundraiser every year for pediatric cancer research, and as I'm promoting that and getting things going, I always ask for a retweet. And rarely I don't even know if it's ever happened where I've asked for a retweet and people haven't retweeted. So let's say, for example, you have public speaking contests, or using Tina's example of cancellation. You know, hey, clubs are canceled this afternoon. Can you please retweet? Then they're going to retweet, and chances are, if you're tweeting that out and a 4-H parent or a 4-H child saw that, then there's a good chance that people that follow them may have also been coming to that meeting. So it starts to get that snowball, and that kind of, branching telephone tree, if you will, starts to happen. Again, we talked about staying active on Twitter. It's hard to do. It's easy to come in on Monday morning and say, all right, I'm going to tweet 5 times a day, and I'm going to do that every day this week. And then Monday afternoon, you're so busy that you completely forget about it. Just try your best to stay as active as you can. And there's no way for me to really get you to understand the lull you'll see if you are active for 3 weeks and you take a week off. It's almost like starting back from scratch. Jim and I were talking about this the other day during the extension conference. Jim said he was tweeting all the time. He was using the hashtag. He was getting new followers every day. Things were really happening. And then after conference, he kind of fell off on using Twitter, and all that slowed down. So it's definitely something that, as long as you're active, people are going to find you, and they're going to follow you. I'd also encourage you to be careful not to be too rigid. Twitter is a very casual kind of environment. There's a way that you can be light and kind of easy, approachable on Twitter without being too relaxed. You can be too rigid, and I think that we get a little too rigid when we start using Twitter to just throw out information. Meeting starts at 9 o'clock tonight. There's a meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. That stuff's very rigid. It's gray. There's no color there. It's hard for me to understand that there's an individual on the other side of that Twitter account that's tweeting that out. When we allow ourselves to kind of ease up a little bit and have some fun with folks, then they start to realize that, yes, it may be extension or Sumner County Extension, but there's an individual that's tweeting that stuff out, and I can see that because of the way they're engaging. So I just encourage you to kind of take a relaxed approach to it. Any questions on this page here, the things that we've talked about so far, or anything for that matter? Does anyone want to know what I had for lunch? Wendy, I love you, Wendy. I had carrots and hummus for lunch. I actually forgot my lunch, and I had that in the refrigerator here. So carrots and hummus. It's the lunch of champions. Yep. Okay, moving forward, and I should have tweeted a picture. It was it was Goog one, Sharon Shockley. It was very Goog one. I'm sure you meant good. All right, we're gonna go forward here. Thank you guys for replying to me there, answering the questions. I know everybody's still alive now. So, engaging on Twitter involves replying to tweets, and the biggest thing, I guess, the goal when you put a tweet out there is for it to be retweeted. Just like on Facebook, if we share a post, if we put a post out there on Facebook, the highest level of I guess positive feedback we can get from the people that have liked our Facebook page is that they share it. When they share something that we've posted on Facebook, they're saying, hey, this brand or this company or this person posted this information, and I liked it so much that I wanted to make sure that everybody that follows me gets to see it. Well, that's what a retweet is. A retweet is somebody saying, hey, this brand over here tweeted this today, and I'm going to retweet it so that everybody that follows me will then see this tweet. And you know what happens then? Then the people that followed that person start to follow you. They're getting news right from the source instead of having to depend on somebody to retweet it. So that's why a retweet is so important, and that's why we almost want to take the approach of maybe nurturing those retweets and making sure that we're doing all we can to encourage people to do that. So a simple retweet. Basically, what happened here is the Knoxville Local is the name. Their handle is Knoxville Buzz, tweeted out some information about the weather. Now, this was last week, I think, when it was very, very cold. And UT Gardens just simply retweeted it. They didn't add anything to it. They just said, hey, Knoxville Local tweeted this out. We want all of our followers to see it as well. So they just did a simple retweet. They added no text to it whatsoever. Now, the two tweets down here, the two tweets down here where I have it, where it says retweet with additional content, is still a retweet, but the person added some information to it. Okay, so follow me here. This first retweet where it says Pecca Falls just short RT at WSMV. So the original tweet was from at WSMV, which is a news station here locally in Nashville, and they tweeted out, what are the most popular baby names in Tennessee? I guess they were wanting to know what most popular baby names in the year 2014 or whenever this tweet was posted. They want to know what the most popular baby names were. So this Derek Hogue, whose handle is at 4checker, retweeted, and you can see that RT there. That means retweet. He retweeted and he put the content that he added to the tweet before. So he added, Derek Hogue added Pekka, who's the name of the Nashville Predators goaltender, by the way, said Pekka falls just short. And that RT indicates that the information after that RT was a tweet originally tweeted by at WSMV. Does that make sense to you guys? What's going on here? Okay, good deal. Okay, so another way about this is Mike Stanley, and Mike works in our ITS, Information Technology Services in Knoxville. He's very active on Twitter, does a lot of neat stuff on Twitter. He retweeted this, however you say that. He retweeted, and instead of putting his edition at the beginning, the way that this Derek Hogue fella did, Mike puts his at the end, and I've looked at several of Mike's retweets to know that he adds his information to the end. Okay, Tina says the Canucks play tonight. I knew that. I should have known that. Um, but thanks for clarifying that. So Mike puts his information here at the end, and he indicates that his information is going to be preceded by this little less than symbol. Okay, so you'll see people do it several different ways. Usually you're going to see some symbols. I've most commonly seen two less than symbols. Very rarely do you see a hyphen or anything like that, because that would be easy to confuse with the original tweet. But you're going to see something that's going to be obvious to you that indicates that that was their addition. I think for the most part, I'm going to say 90% of the time, you're going to see the information that somebody adds to a retweet come at the beginning, just before that RT, as opposed to at the end. So each person has their own way of doing it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. If you prefer to put your addition at the end, then by all means do that. There may be situations where it makes more sense to put your addition at the end. Whatever. Don't worry about the details. Just make sure you're getting that RT in there, and that you're adding information and just engaging with people. It's just a good practice, whether you want to put it at the end or put your additional content at the beginning. Now, the sister or cousin or brother or whatever to a retweet is a MT, and that stands for modified tweet. So a modified tweet happens when, let's say that we posted something that was 140 characters long. I wanted to come in and retweet that, but I wanted to add some information to it. So for me to do that, I would have to go into that original tweet, take out some information so that I could free up some space, add my content, and then tweet it back out. So at that point, instead of having an RT, since I changed content from the original tweet, I would need to add that MT, so a modified tweet. I think this came along as just a kind of a courtesy to say, hey, I've changed this tweet a little bit so that I could add my content. But it's become commonplace and basically the best practice when you do retweet, add content, and have to change something in the original tweet. So I put down here the first tweet that this David Pogue fellow tweeted was, people fear child abductions, shark attacks, plane flights, and then wrong. This chart makes a brilliant point. So I'm assuming if we clicked on that link, that chart would take us to some sort of a graph about what people fear most in life, and public speaking is probably the tops there. So this Catherine H. Courage came along and wanted to retweet, but maybe, I don't know how many characters that was, maybe she didn't like the child abductions part of it, or maybe it was too many characters for her to add what she wanted to add. So she added the death versus taxes, and then the colon, and then the MT. And we can see here after the @pogue username, people fear and the child abductions phrase is gone. So she put MT there because she changed his original tweet, removed the child abductions, but left everything else the same. So does that difference between a retweet and a modified tweet, is that clear to you guys? Sometimes you may see and I don't know why people still do this because it takes up more time or more space, but sometimes you'll see MRT standing for modified retweet. So I think MT is very appropriate and just fine for what we're doing. And then you're going to see options where you can favorite a tweet. And favoriting a tweet is basically the same thing like on Facebook if you get a like. That's just basically saying, hey, I like this post. I'm going to favorite it. We'll put this nice little gold star here on it, just to kind of give the person that tweeted that out a thumbs up and say, good job with that. So that's really all that is. There's not really not much else to say about that. It's just you favorite it. You like it. All right. Any questions before I go forward? Okay. So I talked earlier about direct messages. Direct messages are messages that are private. They're between one user and another user. They're not on a timeline. They're not on a news feed. It's basically a text message on Twitter. So the caveat to that is to engage in direct messaging with somebody on Twitter, you have to follow them and they have to follow you. Okay, so you can't have a direct message conversation with somebody on Twitter if you don't follow each other. So if I followed you, I could send you a direct message, or no, sorry, if I followed you, you could send me a direct message because I've followed you. If you didn't follow me back, I could not send you a direct message. Does that make sense? Okay. As I said before, it acts as a simple text message. It's a way to take a conversation off the main Twitter feed. Unfortunately, a couple months ago, I had some issues with Comcast. It was very frustrating. If you've ever had to deal with the cable companies, it can get very frustrating. So I got to the point where I took it to Twitter and just asked them if they could please help me with my situation. Was getting no response from calling in or from the online chat that they offer. And so I took it to Twitter, and within a couple hours, somebody tweeted to me and said, I think I can help you. Follow me so that we can have a direct message. So that was the cable company's way of taking our conversation off of the public forum onto a private direct message kind of platform. I mean, it wasn't totally private. It's still, people on Twitter can't see it. I don't want you to think that it's not as private as a text message from your cell phone. It's still on Twitter. It's still on a public platform. It's still going to live in the Twitter servers. So, but it's just not viewable by the public or by anybody that follows you or anybody that follows them. So there may be times in your journey with Twitter that maybe there's an upset parent, or maybe somebody needs some information that you don't want to share with the public. Then you could take that conversation off of the main news feed into a direct message type situation, and let people know what's going on, or handle situations, or whatever. Just basically a way to share text messages with another person and take it off of the public forum. Lists in Twitter, that's one of those things that I don't really use that much and should probably try to make an effort to do a little bit more. It kind of organizes the chaos. As you follow people that follow you, you're going to follow people that work for Extension. You're going to follow Extension accounts that are county offices. The main Extension account is a organization. You're going to follow all kinds of different walks of life. I mean, just different sectors of Twitter users that play a role in what you're interested in. if you can be diligent at first, especially if you're just getting into Twitter, and keep lists. So, for example, on the UT Extension Twitter account, I've created lists for extension employees, extension offices, external extension organizations, things like that. So it's a way to quickly and kind of organize the group of people or the group of Twitter users that you've decided to follow. And then using some of the tools, you can break those lists out and follow what they're doing. So again, lists, not much to really know about that. If you think it's going to be useful to use them, if you like to be organized and things like that, by all means, there's some advantages there to creating lists, especially when it comes to kind of curating the content that you're seeing on Twitter. So the tools that I mentioned, there's going to be tool 2 that I cover here. There's a bunch more. I'm not going to even try to get into the various numbers of Twitter tools that you can use for iOS and Android devices, or even Windows 8 devices if anybody's carrying those. But there are a ton. There's 2 that I really like, Hootsuite and TweetDeck. They're pretty close to being the same. They kind of look the same. The only real difference is Hootsuite will allow you to also manage your Facebook page, but it also has an opportunity or an option to upgrade for a cost. You can use it without doing the upgrade, but the upgrade option is there. TweetDeck is just Twitter, and it's completely free. Again, using the free version of Hootsuite and TweetDeck is really just a matter of which one you become more comfortable with. I have both of them on my computer. I'm trying to transition myself to use Hootsuite more rather than TweetDeck, but it's tough to do. Hootsuite just finally changed their layout to where it looks a little more attractive, a little more easier to use, or a little more easy to use. So it's whatever works for you. You can try them both. They're both free. I'm using the free version of Hootsuite. I'm not using the paid version. Hootsuite, as I said, it's free with options for a paid upgrade. You can manage your Facebook as well as Twitter. You can customize the layout. What I mean by that is you can create columns based on what you want to see. It has a mobile app that you can use on your phone that matches. And you can schedule posts. That's a big thing. TweetDeck, basically all the same stuff. You can download a web app, and that means that you download it from their website and it runs as an application on your computer, accessing the internet. Basically just a web page kind of, but it doesn't look like a web page. It's completely free. You can customize the layout. Again, like I said, you can create different columns. So you can really slow down that Twitter feed that you have coming in as you follow more and more people. As I said, it runs on desktop, has a mobile app to match, and you can schedule posts in it. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to jump over to Hootsuite, I think is what I have pulled up first. And let's see if I can get that going. Okay, are you guys now seeing a bunch of columns with tweets? Okay, good deal. Okay, well, basically all we have going on here is I've got my home feed, which the home feed is simply just let me scroll up here. The home feed is just basically my news feed. So this home feed that I have here in Hootsuite is what I would see if I pulled my phone out and I went to Twitter, or if I went to the Twitter website, logged in at the UT extension account, and looked at my news feed. This is what I would see. So there's nothing really special about what we're seeing here. It's just basically your news feed. It's moving fast. As somebody tweets, other stuff gets pushed down. So that's the out of the box news feed. Mentions. I created this column so that I would be able to see anytime someone mentions at UT extension or UT extension. And we can see here this C Brent V3, whoever that is, tweeted. I'd asked the question or put a tweet out several days or yesterday, I think, if I do show the conversation. I put out, well, where's that original tweet at? Let me find it. It's here somewhere. Bear with me. Okay, here it is. Sorry, right here beside me. Yesterday or today at 10:45, I tweeted, "Are you ready for spring?" And then just created this crazy hashtag that has probably never been used before. What are you planting? And then use the hashtag of gardening. And so at 1:20, this C Brent V3 tweeted to me, "Hot peppers and tomatoes. We have a small raised bed garden in Murfreesboro." So that was their way of engaging with me. That was them taking what I tweeted and then retweeting it, but adding or replying. Basically, is what they did. They replied, and you can see that there's no period there before the at UT extension. So that means the only people that are going to see this tweet are going to be people that follow me. Not anybody else is going to see that tweet except for those that follow me or those that go to my news feed and take a look at that. Okay, so it's not really private, but it's a tweet between two users because they did not put a period there. Had they put a period there in front of the username, the at UT extension, it would have gone out as a public tweet and everybody would have seen it. And you can see then that this reply on 120 was actually a reply to where I retweeted their first tweet. So even earlier in the day, this C Brent 3 tweeted, "Excited to plant my onions in the spring," or onions and spring lettuce. I retweeted them. Let me get this, try to make this bigger. Well, it's not going to work with me. Okay. Either way, I retweeted them. I said, "Sounds great. What are you thinking for warm season?" You can see my RT there indicating that this was a retweet. So that's just a way to go about doing the retweet, a good real life example there. If I wanted to, I could reply here or retweet, and I'm going to retweet to my followers. And so it just then at that point, it just goes out as a tweet. And let me do a refresh here and probably do a refresh here on the news feed. So there's that retweet that I just put out from C Brent TV3 to where everybody now can see that we had a little conversation going on about what to plant in the spring. So sticking with my columns a little bit more, we can see the third column I have here is my tweets retweeted. So anytime someone retweets one of my tweets, it's going to show up here. So that's all this is just tweets that I've tweeted that have been retweeted. So it's a good way for me to watch and see when people retweet things, because then I can reach out to them and thank them for the retweet. Okay. The Advancing Tennessee, that's the hashtag that we've been using or trying to use for about a year now in extension of just throwing out that Advancing Tennessee. We can see here the agent in Obion County has created their own little hashtag of Obion CO 4H, standing for Obion County 4H. So the reason it's showing up here is because she also used the Advancing Tennessee hashtag. So this column here just shows me anytime someone uses the Advancing Tennessee hashtag. Scheduled tweets, I don't currently have any scheduled tweets, so this column is going to be empty. As I scroll on down, we can see one of the lists that I have in place, and that's the at UT extension. And let's see if I can just make this. Oh, and UT extension offices. So any extension employees and extension offices are going to show up here. So anytime someone in that list tweets, it's going to show up. So then I can see, what my coworkers and fellow county offices are tweeting about and help them out by retweeting them. The sent tweets column is going to be any tweet that I've sent from this, from Hootsuite, from my UT extension account. So we can see I just retweeted this, and it's showing up here in my sent tweets, and I can look and see all of the sent tweets that I've done from within Hootsuite here. Yesterday, I was showing an example of how to create more search options, and I used the term beef cattle. So now this is probably the most fascinating column, and there's a column just like this in my tweet deck, but this is just searching for the two words beef and cattle. So anytime, anywhere on the planet, somebody tweets and uses the term or the word beef and the word cattle in a tweet, it's going to show up. So for example, if I look at this first tweet, hashtag perspective, in late August, when boxed beef was trading at similar levels to today, front month cattle were trading at today's exact levels. Okay, so I don't really know what all that means, but the term beef and the term cattle. Now, it doesn't even have to be hashtags. It can be just the word. So here, under the Kerry Keene, says Government of India ban cattle slaughter and export of beef with a link there. So there's no hashtags here. It's just the term beef and the term cattle. So you could see how this is a really powerful tool for you to start to look at. Maybe you want to look up or follow the term youth development or healthy living or things like that. And as you see people tweet things, you may find people to follow, you may find information to retweet, or you may find the opportunity to answer questions. I've actually watched on some of on my TweetDeck account, I've got a column like this, and it's just UT and extension. So anytime those two phrases are used in a tweet, I'm able to see that, and I can reach out. Maybe somebody's asking a question. They don't really know how to use Twitter very well, so they're just typing in UT extension. So I can still see that tweet and help that person out and get the right answer to that person in appropriate time. So you can add a plethora. You can add as many columns here as you want. Go all the way over. You can see all the different things that we can add. So I could add another search. So if I'm here and this final column here, it says add a stream. If I want to do another search, and let's say that, for example, I do want to search the terms youth and development, not the hashtag youth development, but just youth and development. So when I search that, then I can see right now at LCE, professional development on an exceptional subject, youth trauma and adverse childhood experiences. Now, this gives me exactly what I asked for. I wanted all tweets when the word youth and the word development were used. And that's exactly what it did. There's the word development, and here's the word youth. And I don't know if you can see me highlighting these terms or not, but they're there. And as I scroll down, undoubtedly, I'm going to find something about youth development that the people that follow me would probably enjoy reading or may find interesting or helpful or whatever it may be. So some really neat ways that you can use these tools to slow down things. On Hootsuite, scheduling a post, what I would do is I would scroll or go up here, move my mouse over to the top, select my account, which I'm going to tweet under UT extension. And then I would compose my message. Let's see, I'll set this to go out tomorrow. It's Wednesday. Are you ready for the weekend? What projects do you have going on? And then I'll throw in advancing. Instead of what projects do you have going on, what about what projects can we help with? That's even better, right? Okay, so better correct that. It is Wednesday. Are you ready for the weekend? What projects can we help with? And then the hashtag advancing Tennessee. Just a very simple tweet. So then what I'll do is I'll go down here to this little calendar icon, and I assume you guys are seeing this okay. And I will click on scheduling. I get this calendar show up here. I will click on Wednesday, January the 14th. And I'm going to have this go out at 9:15 in the morning. And if I wanted to, I could have Hootsuite actually send me an email when the message is sent. And I used to do that. Every time I would schedule a post, I'd have it send me an email. I got tired of that. That gets old pretty quick, especially if you come in here and let's say, all right, it's Friday morning. I want to be active on Twitter this weekend, but I'm not going to have time to actually sit down and do it myself. So I'm just going to go ahead and schedule a bunch of tweets for the weekend and be done with it. You don't want to show up Monday morning in your office with, 10 or 15 emails from Hootsuite saying it sent your message. It's going to send it. If there was something really important you wanted to make sure, or if it was you're asking people to call and sign up for something, or I don't know, maybe a reason why you want to get an email, but that's definitely an option. So when I've got the schedule that I want, I will just click schedule, and if I refresh my schedule column there, I can see now it was scheduled by me. It's going to send at 9:15 a.m. on January 14th, 2015. If I wanted to, I could edit that tweet. I could change the time it went out. I could edit the text. I could add a picture. I could do whatever I wanted to, all right here. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm okay with leaving that tweet to go out tomorrow. So I'm just going to let that kind of sit there. Any questions here on Hootsuite? Okay. Well, I will jump over into TweetDeck then. And look, TweetDeck looks really close to being exactly what we just looked at, right? We've got columns here. We've got different searches that we can do. I'll show you here. I don't know why this is on here, so I'm going to get rid of it. So I've got my @UT extension here. So anytime somebody mentions the phrase UT and the phrase extension in a tweet, I'm going to see it. So here's an example of Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. Okay, this works out perfect. UT extension hyphen Lawrence County Director Calvin Bryant shares the UT extension master beef producer, I assume, program. So this is probably a link right here to some sort of an article about Calvin Bryant, who is the Lawrence County Director, talking about master beef. If I didn't follow this column here of UT and extension, I would not have seen this. There's nothing. I don't follow Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, whatever that is. I don't know if it's county government Twitter account. Maybe it's the local newspaper. I don't know, but I don't follow them. If it wasn't for me following these two keywords, these two phrases, I would never see this. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a retweet because that's definitely relevant to what we do. So I'll throw that out there. Now maybe I'll get them to follow me. Maybe they'll follow me. I don't know. We'll see. Tennessee Department of Agriculture. We can see here again, UT and extension. There's a Emerald Ash Borer community meeting on January 15th. I've actually already retweeted this. I'm trying to find one that doesn't have anything to do with UT and extension. Closest I may come here. Okay, well, down here, Chronicle Politics tweeted, grand jury probing UT regent gets 90-day extension. Okay, I don't know what that means or who that's about, but it doesn't have anything to do with UT Extension, our organization. But because it had the UT and the extension in the tweet, it showed up here. So moving on here, you can add columns. Just on Hootsuite, we had a last column where we could add stuff. On TweetDeck, we just click on the plus symbol. We decide what we want to add. You can add any one of these things. And then let's just say that I want to click the search. And I will type in a search, youth development. And when I do that and I press enter, then it's going to give me a list here of youth development or items, tweets when the words youth and development were used. If I like it, then down here at the bottom, I can click on add column. And sure enough, over here on the far left-hand side, I'm going to have this column of youth development. And I can, in TweetDeck, I can grab this edge here and I can move that column over if I wanted to. You can rearrange all this stuff. You could have these columns go out for a while. I'm going to go ahead and retweet here what Emily Tipton tweeted about our increasing visibility team, just to throw that out there while I'm here. So several different ways. There's a lot of similarities here between the TweetDeck and Hootsuite. I don't have any reason to really recommend one over the other. I prefer TweetDeck. I don't know why. If you're wanting kind of a one-stop shop to be able to manage your Facebook posts and your Twitter posts, then I would encourage you to go with TweetDeck. Hootsuite. I'm trying to kind of transition from TweetDeck to Hootsuite, but I think I just got comfortable using TweetDeck. Again, there's no real reason why to use one or the other. Hootsuite is free, but you can only add 5 accounts, but that's okay. I don't think that many of us have more than 5 accounts. If you do, there's an option you can pay to upgrade. So any questions on these two tools? Anything I can show you in these? Anything you need to know about these right now that I can answer for you? Okay, well, I will go back to our PowerPoint presentation here. And I think this is it. Can you guys now see the PowerPoint presentation? Okay. All right. Well, we're wrap it up here. First of all, just a little note on promoting your Twitter account. If you don't promote it, if you don't put it out there for people, they're not going to know that you're on Twitter. So I would encourage you: business cards, email signatures, Facebook, websites, slideshows during presentations, printed handouts, coffee shop, anything that you can do to let people know, hey, we're on Twitter. In fact, Sumner County 4-H started a Twitter account today, tweeted out, said it's official, we're on Twitter. I retweeted them and followed them. So even letting people know you're on Twitter can help, because people will see that. If you ask for a retweet when you do something like that, then you'll see people will retweet that, and you'll get some followers that way. But again, just the more you can promote it, the more you can push it out, the more people are going to follow you, the more impact you're going to have here on Twitter. And finally, our last slide, some struggles that you're undoubtedly going to face when you start up with Twitter. It's not going to come as fast, or followers on Twitter are not going to come as fast as Facebook fans did. We talked about that. I think that's just something that Twitter's going to progress a little bit slower. I think your conversations that you're going to have on Twitter are going to be more impactful. They're going to be more meaningful to the users because it's a very personal type social media platform, if you will. Maintaining consistent Twitter presence is going to be a struggle. If you, like I said, if you do good for 2 weeks and then you take a week off, you're going to find when you get back into it, you're having to build that momentum back up. You're having to get back into the swing of things. Maybe you won't. That's just what I've experienced as I've taken some time off. The 140 character limit is difficult to do, both on, what can I post in there that can fill some of that space, or how do I get this post down to 130 or 120 characters, or 140 at most, whatever. It's just a difficult concept to wrap your head around. It can be difficult to try to come up with engaging content, especially at first. You want to do something that's going to prompt people to reply or to engage with you, and that can be a challenge at first. It does get easier. You start to kind of get in the zone of Twitter, if you will, and what's going on. And lastly, and this is the most important thing, and if you don't have this with Facebook, I would encourage you to develop it, utilizing your entire county office, because it does take everybody to really be as impactful as you can be, both on Facebook and on Twitter. With no strategy or direction, you're not going to ever know if what efforts you're putting in are actually giving you the desired results that you're looking for. So I would encourage you, before you jump back in or whatever, to gather everybody in the office that's going to be participating in this effort. Come up with a strategy of how much you're going to post, when you're going to post, what type of stuff you're going to post, how you're going to gauge success, how you're going to gauge failure, at one point you're going to change direction, just all that stuff. Just have a conversation, have an idea of a strategy before you go forward, because then I think you have some stuff that you can really look at and compare what your current efforts are doing, and if you're meeting what your goals are. So with that, I will open the floor for questions. on anything that we covered today or anything related to Twitter, and I will be happy to give you an answer for those. If I don't know the answer, then I will find it out for you. But now is your turn to talk, so I will await your wonderful questions patiently. Thank you very much, Michelle. I appreciate that. It can be tough. Folks said yesterday in the meeting it's a little overwhelming, and I get it. It's hard to believe that a social media platform made up of messages that consist of 140 characters can be this complex, but it is. Yeah, Shelly, it can be, but it's I don't want you to be afraid of it. You're not. I don't. Shelly says if you guys aren't watching the chat here, it says I don't have any questions. I do think this is going to be much harder than I thought. It comes naturally, and I didn't want you to think this is too hard. You can do this. It's just a matter of getting out there. And I've learned so much just from watching people use Twitter. When I first got into it, and by no means am I saying I'm an expert, but I've learned a tremendous amount just by watching what some of the people that have 14,000 followers, how they're tweeting, what they're tweeting, when they're tweeting, different things like that. Wendy says it's easier to join a chat through TweetDeck or Hootsuite. For example, either one, because what you would do then is AgChat is going to have a hashtag, and I think that actually may be the hashtag. So when I created that search column for like youth development, you would just create a search column for hashtag AgChat, and then just follow that. That would be how you would do that. Tina says, "Do you think it could be beneficial, more educational than Facebook?" Yes, I agree with you there, Tina, and it's more impactful. I think I get a lot of my news, just my basic news, from Twitter. Margie says 140 character limit probably come with practice. It just takes getting there and doing it. That's exactly right. Okay, Wendy, yeah, it is a hashtag. So what you do, either whether you go with Hootsuite or TweetDeck, just create a search column, put that hashtag AgChat in there, and you'll see everything that people are posting about. Hilda, it will be a learning curve. And that's where I think just jumping in with both feet and reaching out and engaging people. Reach out. I mean, the folks that are our friends, if you will, and that are going to engage with us: Tennessee Cattlemen's, Tennessee Farm Bureau, Tennessee Co-op, the UT Extension, UTIA, all those folks. All those folks have a definite they benefit if we're productive on Twitter. I mean, they really do. So if you reach out to those folks and you mention them about things or whatever it may be, they're going to follow you. You're going to start to see what happens. And yes, they do also they retweet regularly. That's hard to say there, Wendy, but yes, they do. You're going to find them. And what's great about this is I think I sent the email for this training to about 22 or 23 people, I think. So now we've got 23 new people or people recommitted to using Twitter that are also going to be out there retweeting. So what I would like to do is send a survey for this training after my last one next week. I'd like to get everybody to kind of reply with what their handle is, their Twitter handle is, to do a reply all. That way we can make sure that we're following each other and trying to help support each other. Margie says, I think beginning by the searching on topics will give more examples for us to become. I completely agree. It's a great idea, Margie. I think just going on there and searching for either hashtags or keywords that you want to see about, seeing how people are using Twitter there, and then moving forward. County Twitter names? No, I don't. I think they're all over the board. If you're a TSU county, obviously, if you're wanting this to be a complete county effort, then you would want to throw in something with TSU, UT_TSU, white CO. I mean, that could be it. You want to keep it as short as you can, but I definitely understand that you want to also be able to convey who you are. So just get creative and as long as it makes sense to you. The Twitter handle, you can see when I showed you Hootsuite and TweetDeck, you're going to be able to see the name. So when you use the Twitter handle, that's people are still going to be able to see that it's UT/TSU extension White County with a Twitter handle of at UT_TSU extension White County or whatever it may be. So they're not going to have to look at your hashtag or your handle and try to figure out who you are. So don't make it good, make it meaningful, but don't worry too much. There's going to be a way for them to see your friendly name, if you will. All right. Any other questions? Well, guys, like I said, I will send this PowerPoint out to you so you have it. I will probably do that after next Tuesday. I don't have the participants separated, so it's I don't want to send the PowerPoint to people that haven't sat through the session yet. So, yeah, Michelle's been sleeping, I think, this entire time. So I think she woke up just to say a kind word to me and then hopped off. So, all right, guys. Well, if you think of questions that you may have through the as you embark on this, then please let me know. Again, you're not going to mess anything up. You're not going to break anything. Just jump in there, give it a try. You may find that you like it. You may find that you don't. So, but I would at least try to give it a little bit of time and see if you like it or not. So, thank you guys. I really appreciate your time. Appreciate you all, everything you guys do, and let me know how I can be here to help.